What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and it's time to give you my playoff projections for week number 13 of the 2023 college football season. We are officially heading into rivalry weekend, also known as the last weekend of college football in the regular season. So we're going to give you my playoff projections here, as we got a game coming up tonight, and that's Ole Miss and Mississippi State. We also got games starting pretty early on Friday, and then we got, of course, games on Saturday. So I'm going to give you my New Year's Six Bowl projections later today as well, so stay tuned for that video later on this afternoon. But I'm going to give you my playoff projections here for this early afternoon. So let's get right into it here. Again, we're giving you my top four teams here based off of the teams how they've been playing this year, and based off of resumes and how I think I think it's going to go here for the rest of the year for the college football playoff race. So let's get right into it here. Once again, here is the bracket for the college football playoff. And again, this will be the final year that we'll see the four-team playoff bracket. And you look at the number 1 versus number 4 matchup, it will be held in the Sugar Bowl. And then the number 2 versus number 3 seeded matchup will be held in the Rose Bowl. So we'll start with my number 1 seed here, and that team is obviously still going to be the Georgia Bulldogs. I think Georgia is going to win out, go 13-0. They're still my pick to win the SEC championship. But again, when I look at that game against Alabama, I still think it's going to be a very tough one, because Alabama has looked really good now in the last few weeks, and I think it could be a really entertaining SEC championship. Still, I think Georgia is the more talented team. I think they're clearly the more, really good level team, I think, as well. Georgia has looked good as a really good dominant team now in the last couple weeks. They definitely deserve to be at number 1. They were ranked number 1 in the playoff rankings this past Tuesday night, so I don't really disagree with the committee there. And their resume is actually looking pretty good. Now, that Tennessee game might not be a really good win for them, but Tennessee is still in the rankings, so they got 3 top 25 wins on their resume. They got a win over Tennessee, just like I said. Missouri is a really good win, and then Ole Miss is still, obviously a really good win as well. So as of right now, again, Georgia is my pick to win the SEC championship, and again, I think they'll be that number 1 seed to represent the SEC. So that is my number 1 seed in the Sugar Bowl. We go to my number 2 seed now, and that team is going to be Michigan. So I did pick Michigan to beat Ohio State this weekend. Obviously, the game's coming up this weekend on Saturday afternoon. And again, I made my final prediction on that game preview / game prediction video. If you have not seen that video, go back and watch it. And again, I did pick the Wolverines. I know they're without Jim Harbaugh, but I just truly trust Michigan's defense a little bit more than Ohio State's. I also trust, Michigan's running game as well. I think Ohio State's going to really have a hard time stopping the running game of Michigan. They got some really talented running backs in the backfield with Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum in the backfield. They played really well last year, even though Blake Corum did not get to play a lot in this game. But I think he's going to be ready. I think he's going to be out for redemption, even though he can't really play in the Ohio State game last year. But I think he'll be ready to go in this game this year. So, again, Michigan, they're my pick, to beat Ohio State this weekend. And they're also my pick to be the number 2 seed to win out, go to the Big Ten championship. I'm assuming it's going to be Iowa who they'll play in the Big Ten championship if they beat Ohio State. I mean, the winner of this game between Ohio State and Michigan is going to be able to play Iowa in the Big Ten championship. So I think Michigan's going to be that team that beats Iowa, goes to the Big Ten championship, and wins it. And I think it's going to be Michigan that gets the number 2 seed here in the college football playoff. So that is my number 2 seed here. I've kept Georgia and Michigan at number 1 and number 2 for a very long time, ever since the beginning of the season. We go down to my number 3 seed, and that team is still going to be Florida State for me. I know Florida State was ranked number 5 in the playoff rankings the other night, but I still think this Florida State team is a really good team. I still have them winning out, going to the ACC championship. They're also my pick still to win the ACC title game, even though, Louisville has looked really good now in the last few weeks. But without Jordan Travis in there, could that really be the case here, going for the rest of the way? Could that really be, a disastrous finish to the season for Florida State? I don't really think so. I do kind of trust their backup quarterback. I know they got a tough game coming up on the road this weekend at Florida, but I say they're going to win that game, go 12-0, and win out, go to the ACC championship. And it really comes down to the Pac-12 championship as well. If either Oregon or Washington play in the Pac-12 championship, and whoever wins it, I think Florida State's going to end up here at number 3. Maybe Washington will be at number 3 if they win it. Maybe Florida State gets in there as a number 4 undefeated ACC champion. But it's going to be wild. It's going to be a really wild race here to the playoff, semifinal here, because there are a lot of undefeated teams, and there's also a lot of playoff contenders this year. I think we have still like 10 more to go in the playoff race. So again, Florida State here at number 3, and we also got 5 undefeated Power 5 teams ranked, in the top 5. We got Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, Washington, and Florida State are all undefeated. So again, I think Florida State's still going to be here at number 3. I think they'll win out, go to the ACC championship. Even without Jordan Travis, I think they're still going to win it. They're still my pick to win it right now, but I could change my pick here as we got those conference championship game predictions coming up next week right here on the channel, all next week. So let's go to my number 4 seed now. I still got the Oregon Ducks here as my number 4 seed. And again, Oregon is my pick to win the Pac-12 championship right now. This team has been rolling. They've been really playing some solid football in the last few weeks. And in fact, I think they've been the most dominant team in the country, maybe besides Georgia. But Oregon has definitely been that most dominant team in the country. You look at Oregon, their scores, they have looked really good on both sides of the football, especially on offense. Bo Nix has been playing pretty well. So yeah, Oregon, you look at them, obviously, I think they're going to win the Pac-12 championship, knock off an undefeated Washington team. And like I said, I think they do win out and, maybe get in there as a 12-1 team. And I think that will be the only one-loss team in there in the college football playoff bracket and everything. But again, the way that Oregon has been playing, I have to really go with them to still be at number 4. So Oregon, again, still my number 4 seed, and these are the same playoff projections I've been having now, I believe, for the last 2 weeks. I did have Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, and, I did have, maybe like Ohio State here at number 4, but I did change my pick here because it's going to come down to Michigan, Ohio State for that number 2 seed. But again, you look at Georgia, I still think they're going to run the table. They're my pick to win the SEC championship right now. And then you look at Michigan, I think they're going to win against Ohio State this week. Like I said, I am picking Michigan to win that game, go undefeated, go to the Big Ten championship and win it. And as of right now, again, Florida State with no Jordan Travis, I think they're still going to win out, go to the ACC championship and win it as of right now. And then I got Oregon going 11-1 and then going 12-1 with a Pac-12 championship win and obviously getting revenge on Washington. So those are my top 4 teams here for week number 13 for the last weekend of the regular season. So again, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, and Oregon. Let's now make predictions here if these games were to happen, let's say tomorrow, maybe next week. So we'll start with Georgia versus Oregon here. I still think Georgia is clearly the more better team here. I don't think Oregon is quite on Georgia's level. Oregon does have a talented roster and all, but we've seen Georgia just be so dominant this year, just based off of the fact that they've been really looking good now in the last 3 weeks. I think Georgia is going to beat Oregon here if this game were to happen tomorrow. And I just think, like I said, I don't think Oregon is on Georgia's level. I think this game would be a lot closer than the game in the season opener than it was last year. I think, last year was just definitely maybe not like a fluke, but I think Georgia just showed why they were the most dominant team in the country last year on Oregon. And Oregon was definitely not, on Georgia's level last year. I still think they're not on the level of Georgia, but I think Georgia clearly is the more better team than Oregon here. So I'm going to go with Georgia here in the All-State Sugar Bowl semifinal matchup. And then we got Michigan versus Florida State here. Michigan, like I said, they still have been the dominant team for recent times. I think I'm still going to go with Michigan here if this game were to happen tomorrow. And let's say Jordan Travis doesn't play in this Michigan game. If this game were to happen in real life, well, I think Michigan would probably win, maybe by at least a couple scores, maybe by 10 points or somewhere in that range. Because without Jordan Travis in there, that's definitely going to be a very tough one for this Florida State offense to move past this Michigan defense. So I think Michigan is going to beat Florida State here if this game were to happen tomorrow. So I got Georgia once again in the national title game against the Michigan Wolverines. And I've been saying this now for the last few weeks. The way that Georgia has been playing, they definitely have looked like the most dangerous team in the country, but maybe besides Oregon. But, Georgia, they definitely have proven to us that they are the most dangerous team once again in the country. They blew out Ole Miss, a top 10 team. They also blew out Tennessee this past weekend. They had a tough time against Missouri, but, they showed us why they were also a pretty good defense as well in that game. So with that being said, I'm not changing my pick here. I still think Georgia is the clear favorite to win the national championship, and I also think they win it for a third consecutive year in a row. But like I said, when I'm looking at that SEC championship, What happens from there? Does Georgia move down to number 5 in the standings? I don't really think so. I think Georgia could probably get in there at least as a number 3, one-loss team, but we'll have to find out maybe next weekend. So we'll see what happens there. It's going to be a really good SEC championship game matchup. But again, these are my top 4 teams for my Week 13 playoff projections. I got Georgia at number 1, Michigan at number 2, Florida State at number 3, and then I got Oregon here at number 4. So the same top 4 as last week, and also the same top 4 maybe, in the last 3 weeks. But again, the same national championship game between Georgia and Michigan, and definitely the same, national championship pick as well. So I got Georgia still winning it all in 2023, and these are my playoff projections here for Rival Week here of the 2023 college football season. Give me your thoughts down in the comments below on these playoff projections. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports Channel.